Well, it's been over 10,000 kilometers now since I fitted the Donaldson XLC200K airbox replacement to my 200 series LandCruiser, and today I want to tell you how it's performed. Now, just like any new to market product, there are always just a couple of teething issues, and there's been a couple of changes I've had to make to my setup to make this product work as designed. So in today's video, I'm going to show you the clean side of my airbox, talk about some of the fitment issues I've had, my results with this applied indicator gauge, how it's affected the performance of my vehicle, and most importantly, whether or not I would fit this unit again if I had my time over. Now, if you are looking at getting one of these units for yourself, Essential 4x4 are offering Exploring Oz viewers free shipping. All the details are in the description below. I'm not paid to do this review, nor am I getting any commission from the sales it may create, but if I can get you a discount, why not? So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into today's video. Let's begin with probably the most important part and the reason that we're all interested in this product, and that's whether or not it has prevented dust ingress into the intake of the LandCruiser. Now, I'm going to say straight up, this is not a technical or scientific video, and we are merely going to be conducting a visual inspection of the clean side of the air intake. It might sound insufficient, but if you run a standard airbox, there's a good chance that you can visually detect dust in your intake. In order to remove the clean side of the new unit, we have to remove the flexible intake pipe by removing two 10mm hose clamps, one on each side. Remove this pipe, unclip the mass airflow sensor wiring and the two metal clips holding the two pieces of the airbox together. Hinge outwards and remove the top side of the airbox. So this is the first time that this top half has been taken off the unit since it was installed over 10,000 kilometers ago. And even though we've done all of those kilometers, we can see here that this upper side, the clean side of the box, is completely spotless. There isn't a single piece of visually detectable dust on the inside. Using a rag or my finger to wipe areas within the housing, we can see that it's not removing anything or creating any contrast against that surface. Now, taking a look down this flexible intake pipe, we can also see there is no dust particles in here either. Now, this pipe does appear to be a little bit dirty. However, I put this down to staining from the old system. I've attempted to clean this pipe out on initial installation, but this dirt is not surface dust. And the same goes for the intake junction pipe. No visible dust or anything of concern noted here. Moving on to take out the replaceable filter element. We note that the sealing edge is uniformed and appears to work exactly as designed. Both edges are cleaned where the surfaces were in contact and there is no sign of dust passing by. The top of the filter element appears clean and just the same as when we installed it. As we expect, the fresh air or the dirty side of the filter has quite a few contaminants. We see there is a slight discoloration within the element material as dirt, dust and debris is caught within. However, structurally it presents in good condition. Now, the external housing of this box has held up fairly well. I haven't noticed any cracks, marks or fatigue, and nothing has rattled loose over a variety of terrains. So I'm satisfied that over 10,000 kilometers of driving that the filter box and the element itself is doing exactly what it's designed to do, and there's no signs of dust ingress or dust getting past any of this filter assembly. Now, of course, one of the advantages to running this new Donaldson system is the increased service life we achieve from the filter element. Even though I've done over 10,000 kilometers of driving, many of that in dusty conditions, I'm confident in putting back the original element to continue to filter the air intake. Now, I've spoken very positively of the system itself and the way in which it filters the air into the intake system, but there has been a fitment issue that I've detected in the first 10,000 kilometers. The first thing I noticed after a little while of driving the vehicle around was that there was a bit of fouling on this under bonnet heat shielding material. I first noticed that the indicator gauge and the leading edge that stuck up from the indicator gauge there was rubbing into that material, creating a mark and an impression. A little bit later on, I also noticed there was just the faintest of marks nearby from the top leading edge of the box itself. Now, I can confirm that apart from the cosmetic damage it's caused to the heat shielding material, nothing else has failed. The indicator gauge still works exactly as it's designed, and there's no stress or crack marks that I can see from a visual inspection, and this goes with the entire box as well. It should also be noted that this heat shielding material has some movement in it, so there's no doubt that the rubbing is going to be caused by the heat shielding and the box moving ever so slightly independently. Now, I'm also fortunate enough to have a direct line of contact with the air product manager at Donaldson, so I fed this feedback back to the company. The manager has taken this on board and has set out to design an angled adapter to offset the angle of that indicator gauge. I've been given this test piece here and installed it using a little thread tape to help seal the connections. Once these angle adapters have been tested and the materials, angles and specs confirmed, they will be included in the kit as an option for those wishing to fit it. I've also been informed for those existing customers having a similar issue, they can contact Donaldson to organise one of these angle adapters to be sent out to them once they've been finalised. Now in relation to the box itself, the mark on the heat shielding material is just that. It's only a mark and not an impression, which would indicate that it's just the slightest of fouling. Either way, the manager's looking into this and we'll see where that goes. For the time being, the reason we believe this has occurred is just in relation to the model and year of this LandCruiser. This one here being a 2014 pre-facelifted version, it's a possibility there may be a little less room underneath or in this area here compared to those facelifted versions. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been any 2015 plus years that have had this issue. And this brings us on to the indicator gauge itself. As we see here, the indicator gauge measures from 10 to 25 inches of water as vacuum is measured. As we start to build more restriction and go over 20 inches of water, we will start to see the service windows turn red. And this will indicate that a new filter element is required as the restriction is building. Now for those who've watched my channel will know that I used to run a cyclonic pre-filter on the Safari RMAX snorkel. This has collected a lot of dirt and debris in the past, before it even enters my airbox, but there was no doubt it was also causing some restriction in the intake airflow. With this setup installed, I was tripping that service window every single time I went for a drive, whether or not I was towing the camper or just popping down to the local shops. So a little while back, I reinstalled a traditional ram-styled snorkel head, and I'm happy to say that I have not once tripped that gauge since. I've done a variety of terrains, including towing the camper up some very steep and prolonged hills where the turbos have been at full PSI for a little while and still nothing. Now again, I've fed my results back to Donaldson and they're aware of certain setups, different snorkel types, ECU tunes, chips, performance upgrades, etc., tripping those indicator gauges. The general consensus that Donaldson have received is that the Safari RMAX snorkel and the V-Specs snorkel are working well, but there are many other snorkels on the market that are causing that indicator gauge to trip. What's very important to note about this point is it's not a problem with the airbox or the filter element. This level of restriction is what you're experiencing in your setup, whether it be the snorkel type or performance upgrades, and that level of restriction would be there regardless of what type of airbox you're running. What it does prevent though is the ability to visually detect that service window and determine whether or not or when that filter element needs replacing. So it's for this reason that Donaldson are looking to produce more of a heavy duty indicator gauge that will measure up to 30 inches of vacuum. And what this will do is it won't change the level of restriction in your setup, but it will allow that service window to remain okay up until the filter element starts to create that restriction, where it will then turn red and indicate that a new filter element is required. Now my advice would be, if you have some restriction in your setup, try and find that restriction and eliminate it. Obviously, the less restriction through an intake is going to be ideal. So next up, performance. Has there been any change in the performance of the Cruiser since fitting this unit? Now, like I said earlier, this is not a scientific video, so I have not dyno-tuned the vehicle or have any hard data, but I will say there was no change in the performance when I was running that cyclonic pre-filter. Since changing to the ram head styled snorkel head, there has been a significant change in the performance of the Cruiser, both while towing and unladen. Now I can't place this down to the box itself, as obviously we have much less restriction in that intake system. But Donaldson have independently tested this airbox and claim up to 30% less restriction from factory. So this being said, with a much increased surface area, I'm happy to take their word for it. So this begs the question as to whether or not I would fit this product to my LandCruiser if I had my time over again. And the quick and simple answer is undoubtedly yes. And here's why. First of all, the main reason that we're all interested in this product in the first place, and it doesn't allow dust to progress through into the intake system. Toyota have created the infamous dusting issue, and this product is the most likely to put this to an end. Secondly is the filter element itself. Donaldson have extensively tested and developed this product to fit the largest filter element known as the D09 into this housing. The size and spacing of the pleats in this much larger filtering element gives us a hugely increased surface area, which not only gives us less restriction, but also a much longer service life. Thirdly, you have the backing of a global company which has the reputation of being a market leader in the air filtration industry. They had the ability to design, test, manage, modify, and provide the best possible product for the customer. Now, it may look easy to design a housing like this, and many small businesses have done so, but let's take the top of this housing of the XLC200K for example. This single piece of the unit was created and redesigned 6 times to achieve this very particular shape and flow. The 6th version of this piece provides the best airflow for a 200 series and retains less than 5% change in deviation of airflow over the math sensor from stock. Now you tell me another business that can go into that level of detail. Now for me, the only issue I've had with this airbox is purely cosmetic. It hasn't affected the design or the functionality of the product at all. I fed my results back to Donaldson and they took it head on. There was no ignoring it, denying, trying to cover it up or handballing the issue. They heard of a problem, they worked to find a solution, and they worked with other customers to provide the best possible product to all customers, both existing and new. The only disappointment I have in this product is that it wasn't released soon enough. I'm very happy with the performance and the results that I'm seeing so far, and I look forward to moving on into the future knowing that I have one of the best possible products protecting my engine from any further damage down the track. But I hope this video has been helpful and provided you with some information to determine whether or not one of these airboxes is going to be right for your 200 series. Just remember, Essential 4x4 are offering free shipping to all Exploring Oz viewers. Details will be in the description below. I hope you enjoyed the video, but we'll see you next time on Exploring Oz. Cheers.